I'm 33. My sister Grace is 35. We grew up in a very average, sometimes struggling household. Coupon dinners, secondhand clothes, one old TV in the living room. Our parents did their best, but money was always tight. Grace was the social butterfly. I was the kid with hand-me-down laptops, teaching myself to code after school. Fast forward to adulthood. Grace became a teacher, married young, and had 2 kids. I bounced around a few tech jobs, joined a small startup almost by accident, and lived like a broke student for years while we tried to get the company off the ground. My family thought I was playing with computers and should get a real job with benefits. Then the startup sold. I won't pretend it wasn't surreal. My tiny slice of equity, which had once felt like a charity prize, suddenly turned into about $12 million after taxes. I hired a financial planner, paid off my modest student loans, bought a small but comfortable house, and invested most of the rest. I kept my old car and still shop sales out of habit. I didn't tell my family the number. I just said, the company did well. I'm okay now. They seemed happy for me in a vague way. Finally, my mom said, you won't have to worry like we did. Grace joked, remember us little people when you're rich, then immediately changed the subject. For a year, nothing dramatic happened. I quietly helped where I could, contributed to my parents' medical bills, slipped Grace some money when her car died, paid for Thanksgiving groceries without saying much. It felt good to give back. I didn't mind being generous. I just didn't want our relationships to turn into transactions. Last Thanksgiving, that illusion shattered. We all gathered at my parents' house, turkey in the oven, football on TV, kids running around. My dad had discovered online banking, and at some point he asked me to help him check his account on his tablet. While I was setting it up, he said proudly, look, I can even check my retirement account now. How many zeros do you have in yours? And laughed. I laughed too and jokingly said, enough that I don't have to panic about every bill. I thought the conversation would end there. Instead, Dad said, you must be close to a millionaire by now, right? After that company thing. I hesitated. That split second was my mistake. Grace, who was passing behind us with a tray of rolls, caught my expression. Wait, she said, putting the tray down. How much did you make from that sale anyway? You never really said. The room went quiet in that way. That means everyone is pretending not to listen while listening very hard. I could have lied. I probably should have. But I'm a terrible liar, especially to my mother's face. I tried to keep it vague. It was more than I expected, I said. Enough that I'm financially comfortable if I'm smart about it. How much? Grace repeated, voice sharper now. Ballpark. My dad, oblivious, said, come on, we're family. You can tell us. I took a breath. Around 12 million after taxes, I said quietly. But most of it is invested. It's not like I have 12 million in cash under the bed. The tray of rolls slid off Grace's hand and landed on the table with a dull thud. My mom's mouth fell open. My dad let out a low whistle. The kids didn't understand, but they sensed a shift and went unusually quiet. You have $12 million, Grace said slowly. And you live like this? She gestured at my Target sweater and the beat-up car visible through the window. I live like someone who doesn't want to blow the money, I said. I still work. I still budget. It's not a bottomless pit. For the rest of dinner, the mood was odd. My parents kept circling back to it. So you're really set for life? You must be able to travel anywhere. Think of all the things we never had. My usual stories about work and hobbies suddenly felt boring next to the number now flashing in everyone's head. After dessert, the real conversation began. We were clearing plates when Grace pulled me aside into the hallway. Her eyes were shiny, not with happiness. I can't believe you've had that kind of money for a year and never told me, she said. We're sisters. I didn't want it to change things, I said. I've helped when I could. I just didn't want this. She laughed once, angrily. You helped when you could? My car died and you gave me $2,000 like it was some huge favor. You have 12 million. That's like me giving you 12 cents. That 2,000 paid for a used car, I said quietly. It was meant to get you back on your feet, not buy you a luxury SUV. You don't get it, she said. I have student loans, 2 kids, a leaking roof, and prices keep going up. Meanwhile, you have more money than our entire family combined and act like it's this big secret. Do you know how selfish that looks? I stared at her. Selfish? I worked 80-hour weeks for years at a job everyone said was a joke. I got lucky, yes, but I also didn't spend it all the second it arrived. I've been paying Mom and Dad's medical bills quietly. I offered to help you refinance your loans. How is that selfish? She folded her arms. Because you're sitting on a fortune while pretending we're all on the same level. You could change our lives. Mom could retire. I could quit my second job. We could finally breathe. Instead you're hoarding it for, what? More index funds. Her words stung because they hit every guilt string I already had. But something in me also bristled. This money has to last my whole life, I said. There's no guarantee I'll ever have another windfall. I want security, not a contest of who I can rescue. Grace shook her head. It's easy to talk about security when you already have it. You're choosing comfort over family. She stormed off before I could reply. I thought maybe she just needed time to cool down. Instead, the next morning, my parents asked to have a talk. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place we'd done homework and argued over cereal as kids. My mom looked uncomfortable. My dad looked determined. We've been thinking about what Grace said. Dad began. You know we're proud of you, but we're also getting older. We don't have much for retirement. The house needs work. Your mother's medication is expensive. We were wondering if you could help more. I've already been covering most of the bills, I said. I'm happy to keep doing that. Mom cleared her throat. Your father means maybe something more permanent, like buying us a nicer place or giving Grace enough to pay off her loans and fix a roof. It feels strange that our child has so much while we have so little. It wasn't an accusation exactly, but it wasn't not an accusation. How much were you thinking? I asked carefully. Dad said a number that made my stomach lurch, high enough that it would seriously dent my savings. Not ruin me, but change my long-term plans. It wasn't a request for help. It was a request to redistribute my future. I love you both, I said. I will always make sure you have what you need. Healthcare, a safe place to live. But I can't become the family bank for everything everyone wants. Dad frowned. So 12 million, and we're still counting pennies? What's the point of money if not to take care of family? The point, I said slowly, is that I don't end up in the same situation you did. Terrified of every bill when I'm older. I've already increased what I give you. I've helped Grace, but I need limits, or there won't be anything left when I need it. The conversation ended with them understanding in the way people do when they don't. Not really. The rest of the weekend was tense. Grace barely spoke to me, except for one parting shot as I loaded my car. Enjoy your money. Must be nice to choose who deserves help. On the drive home, I cried, the ugly, frustrated kind. Then I called my financial planner and, to my surprise, a therapist. The planner's advice was blunt. You're allowed to be generous, but you need a plan. Decide a yearly amount you're comfortable giving, and stick to it. Once emotions get involved, numbers disappear. The therapist's advice cut deeper. Your family's financial struggles are real, but so is your right to security. Their feelings don't automatically become your obligations. You can love them and still say no to certain things. With their help, I created clear boundaries. I set up a modest fund specifically for family support. Enough to be meaningful, not enough to sink my future. I offered to pay for my parents' medical insurance in full and small monthly stipends, but not to buy them a new house. I offered Grace a one-time lump sum to help refinance and repair her roof, plus to start college funds for my nieces, but not to wipe out all her debts or cover every emergency. When I laid this out over a video call, reactions were mixed. My mom cried with relief about the insurance. My dad grumbled but ultimately accepted. Grace called my offer conditional love with interest and said she needed space. We didn't talk for months. During that time, something interesting happened. Without the constant pressure to fix everything, I started actually enjoying my life. I took a modest trip. I upgraded my laptop. I donated to a scholarship fund for kids who reminded me of my younger self. I volunteered to teach coding at a community center. Using my money intentionally felt better than throwing it into a hole of family expectations I could never fully fill. Eventually, Grace reached out. It started with a text about my niece's school project, then a photo, then a cautious phone call. In that call, she admitted something I hadn't expected. When you said 12 million, she said. I saw every missed vacation, every bill I'm scared of, every time I said no to my kids. It felt like the universe chose you to be safe and left the rest of us in the struggle. I took that out on you. I get it, I said. I feel guilty sometimes just for being okay when other people aren't. She sighed. I still wish you'd done more, but I'm starting to realize that even if you paid off everything, I'd still be anxious. I have to fix my own mess too. We're not completely back to normal, whatever that means. Money changed the way my family sees me, and I can't pretend it didn't. But now our conversations aren't always about what I can pay for. Sometimes they're about my niece's soccer games, or a recipe of mom's I'm trying to learn. Here's what I know now. Sudden wealth doesn't just test your own values. It tests everyone else's. Generosity without boundaries turns into obligation. And when people say if I had that much, I'd share it, what they often mean is if you have that much, you should share it with me. If your relatives have ever treated your success like a community property they're automatically entitled to, you're not selfish for saying no. You're just finally putting your own oxygen mask on first. Share one line of your story in the comments, or drop a money bag broken heart, if any of this feels familiar. And if you want more real stories about money, family, and learning to protect your peace, hit subscribe and stay with me. Maybe the next one will make you feel a little less alone.